Okay, let's look quickly at this lab. I'm just going to sort of talk you through it. You can do this on your own later. How do you create a table using SQL? We did that last week. It's the create command, create table, and then you list the field, each of the fields, and you have to describe the data types and all of that. So if you have a look at previous lab, you'll see how to do that. How do you delete a table using SQL? You actually have a delete command, and you can use a where with it. Delete whatever the name of the table. Actually, you could use drop table. Would probably be better. Drop table, blah, blah, if you want to drop the entire table. You could use delete to delete all the rows from a table. Um, what are the common types used to define columns in SQL? And I haven't got those with me here off the top of my head. I can tell you, right, we got character, CHAR, we got varchar, we have numeric, and there are others, and I expect you to sort of just go through and look those up yourselves. So these are just answering questions that are theory. If you have any trouble with those, you can use Google to help you. Identify the best data type to use to store the following types of data on your server. You do have a date type. There's a date time type, so have a look for that. Date, there's several date ones. Check them out. But I think that the one we used was date time. An employee's ID number, you don't want to use a numeric type. You don't want to use an int. You want to use a char. And you don't want a varchar either, because you probably have some algorithm or some theory on your employee ID numbers that they all have to meet a certain requirement, and they're probably 3 characters long or something like that. The department in which an employee works, that would be varchar probably, because different departments would have different names, which some would be long names and some would be shorter. So that's the way I think I would do that. Um, um, the employee's hourly pay rate. Now, this one is important because it does involve some calculations are going to happen from their pay rate. You're going to work out what is their pay, so that needs to be numeric. And because it's dollars and cents, it'll be numeric with decimal places, with 2 decimal places. Um, well, it could have more, I suppose. Explains the difference between a char and the varchar. Well, a char, there's got a fixed amount of data is set fixed amount of memory is set aside for it. So if you have a char and you have 5 characters, 5 characters are set aside and to be used, whether you use that or not. That whether you have a 5-character value or not, 5 characters are saved. With varchar, it only saves in the memory the characters that you actually enter into the field. So varchar is more flexible and ends up using less data storage. What is a null value? A null value where a field has no value. And you can, when you create a table, you can set it so that it's not null, and that will require that the person, when you enter data into that table, that none of the fields have a null value for that field. That none of the records have a null value for that field. Which SQL command do you use to add a row to a table? Add a row to a table, you would use insert, right? You can add a row to a table, or you can add many rows to a table with the insert command. So have a look at that, see if you can find that. Which SQL command do you use to view the data in the table? Well, you could use your select statement. And we saw that with the select statement, you can do select, and then you say from is the table, and then you have some where clause to filter out which rows you want. Which SQL command do you use to change the value of a column in a table? You'd have to use your update, and have a look at that. That's near the end of the lesson in the PowerPoint that we had today. The update. Which SQL command do you use to change the value? We talked about that column. 10. Which SQL command do you use to delete rows from a table? You could use the delete command for that. So that is actually different. Deleting a table, we use drop table actually, and then delete for deleting rows. And that should get you started on that. Go ahead and write that up, and I hope that helps.